On a Sunday in March 2023, a resident of the small English village of Basing in Lincolnshire decided to take a stroll along the River Witham with his loyal dog. The man was genuinely enjoying the tranquility and picturesque landscapes of the countryside when suddenly the idyll was disrupted by his pet, who brought a white grocery store bag in its teeth and placed it at its master's feet. The bag emitted a rather unpleasant odor, so the man assumed that it likely contained spoiled meat, which had attracted the dog's attention. Upon untying the knot, he saw a chilling find and immediately called the police. Within half an hour, officers arrived at the scene. The bag contained a severed human hand. The police promptly summoned divers to search the river. By the end of the day, 17 more similar bags were retrieved from the bottom of the Witham and sent for examination to a forensic center in London. It took the experts a full 13 hours to assemble the puzzle of 224 body parts. Such horrifying discoveries indicated that law enforcement was dealing with an extremely brutal criminal who was likely well versed in anatomy and could be connected to the medical field. According to the medical examiner's report, the victim turned out to be a young woman aged approximately 20 to 30 years old. Her death had occurred about a week prior. The body lacked any distinctive features, tattoos, birthmarks, or scars that could aid in identifying the deceased. After thoroughly searching the riverbank and surrounding area, the police found no further evidence. Next, the detectives began checking lists of missing persons, trying to find matches with the parameters of the discovered victim. The description fit 26-year-old Holly Mason, who had last been seen by her relatives 6 days earlier, on March 20th. Although the girl was married, it was not her husband but her parents, the Bramleys, who contacted the police. They had noticed changes in their daughter's behavior as early as March 17, when she stopped answering calls, limiting herself to only messages, and Holly's communication style abruptly changed. The parents said that their daughter had suddenly begun writing to them rudely, telling them to leave her alone. "We immediately felt something was wrong. Holly had always been a very kind girl and would never express herself like that," they noted. Identifying the mutilated body was not possible, so DNA testing had to be used, which dispelled all doubts. The victim of the crime was indeed Holly Mason, who lived in the city of Lincoln, just 7 kilometers from the site of the gruesome discovery. The girl resided with her 28-year-old husband, Nicholas. Holly was born in 1997 into a large family, being one of triplets. In total, the family had as many as 13 children, with whom the girl had surprisingly warm relationships. After finishing school, Holly enrolled in a medical college in Boston, intending to become a nurse. It was there, in 2016, while in her second year, that she met fourth-year student Nicholas Mason, who was studying to be a general practitioner. Little is known about Nicholas' childhood years, except that in 2013, at the age of 17, he was convicted of assaulting a girl, and 3 years later, in 2016, the young man again found himself in the dock. This time, Mason was sentenced to a suspended term for posting photos of his girlfriend online without her consent. This was how Nicholas took revenge on his ex for breaking up with him. After the verdict, the young man was expelled from medical college. Meanwhile, he and Holly developed a close relationship and began dating. The girl was not at all frightened by either Nicholas' dark past or his Asperger syndrome. The young man, kicked out of college, got a job at a meat processing plant. In 2018, when Holly completed her studies and began working as a nurse at a clinic in Lincoln, Nicholas proposed to his beloved. On September 18, 2021, the couple had a modest wedding. The newlyweds settled on the 14th floor of an apartment building in a residential area of Lincoln, occupying a small 2-room flat. Holly understood that life with Nicholas would not be easy. Asperger's syndrome has many manifestations. In Mason's case, the disorder made the man obsessed with the idea of total control. He incessantly monitored his wife's every move, demanding that she report her every action down to the smallest detail, including what she ate, what medications she took, and what color socks she wore. Nicholas severely limited Holly's communication with her parents, brothers, sisters, and friends. The girl rarely saw her relatives, occasionally chatting by phone or on social media. While studying in college, Holly had worked for some time as a nurse at a center for children with autistic disorders, so she had experience communicating with people who suffer from similar conditions. The girl learned to ignore some of Nicholas' quirks, and sometimes tried to calm her husband with assurances of boundless love. At first, this approach yielded results, but over time, Nicholas' behavior became increasingly inadequate. It seemed that Holly's angelic patience only fueled her husband's desire for absolute control over every aspect of her life. In the fall of 2022, Nicholas suddenly began to think that Holly was overly concerned about their dog. One day, the man allegedly did not notice how the animal crawled into the washing machine, after which the appliance turned on and began a washing cycle. Moreover, Nicholas deliberately arranged everything so that it was Holly who stumbled upon the dead pet. Unfortunately, it did not end there. A similar fate befell the hamsters that Holly got after the dog's death. Nicholas claimed that the unclean rodents had escaped from the cage on their own. One climbed into the microwave, and the other into the bowl of the blender. Both hamsters died. It was then that Holly realized that Nicholas was insane and she needed to escape from him immediately. In December 2022, the frightened girl told her best friend not only about the death of the pets but also about other alarming incidents. Her friend pleaded with Holly, "Get out while you still can. Are you still hesitating about whether to leave him?" However, Holly only managed to leave her husband 4 months later. The last straw was when in March 2023, Nicholas cooked their decorative rabbit for dinner. 16 months had passed since the wedding when Holly finally decided to leave Nicholas, who by that time had already scared her to death, constantly babbling that nothing and no one could ever separate them. Holly's parents recalled that their daughter adored her younger brothers, nephews, and nieces, and dreamed above all of becoming a mother. The girl fervently wanted to have her own children. However, Nicholas was by no means fit for the role of a father. Holly had planned to divorce him back in early 2023 but unfortunately kept postponing this decision. On March 18, 2023, Holly did not show up for work, and since her phone was not answering, the head nurse called Nicholas to find out if his wife was all right. The man replied, "Didn't she tell you that we broke up? Last night Holly packed her bags and left. I have no idea where she is now." Obviously, Nicholas told the same story to his wife's parents, who also could not get through to their daughter. Over the next 2 days, Holly's relatives and friends called all her acquaintances, but none of them knew with whom or where the young woman had gone. Finally, on March 20th, Holly's parents went to the police station and filed a missing person report for their daughter. The next day, investigators summoned Nicholas Mason to the station and asked him to recount when and under what circumstances he had last seen his wife. This is what the man replied: "It happened on March 17 or 18. Holly packed her things and left. I saw through the window that she was being escorted by 2 men, so I assumed she was having an affair, and judging by everything, it had been going on for a long time. I didn't want to disclose this and make a fuss." When asked why he hadn't contacted the police, Nicholas explained that since Holly had not returned home, their marriage had de facto ceased to exist, and therefore, he was no longer concerned with this woman's life. During the interrogation, Nicholas remained extremely calm, but he noticeably grew nervous as soon as the detectives inquired when they could inspect his home, and he very reluctantly agreed to a search. Before entering the apartment, one of the officers double-checked, "Are you absolutely certain that Holly is not at home?" Nicholas replied with a mocking smile, "I'm 100% sure she's not there, but if you don't trust my word, check for yourself, maybe she's hiding under the bed." While examining the dwelling, the detectives found that Holly's belongings were indeed almost gone, but their attention was drawn to something else. In all the rooms, there was a strong smell of bleach, and bloody tissues lay in the kitchen garbage can. When the police demanded an explanation from Nicholas, he replied that during their last meeting, Holly had bitten him and showed teeth marks on his arm as proof. As strange as Mason's explanation sounded, at that point, the investigators had no grounds to detain him. The detectives visited Nicholas again a few days later when it was discovered that the mutilated female corpse found in the Witham belonged to Holly Mason, who had been missing for over a week. For some reason, the surveillance cameras in the building where the couple lived had failed 2 days before Holly's disappearance. Someone had cut the cable. However, the police managed to find footage from cameras on a neighboring building, which recorded Holly entering the entrance on March 17, 2023, with a bag of fish in her hands. After that, the girl did not leave the house again. Nicholas Mason was immediately taken into custody, and forensic experts conducted a thorough search of the dwelling. Although the man had carefully cleaned the apartment, generously using bleach, the experts still managed to detect traces of Holly's blood in the bedroom, kitchen, and bathroom. Judging by the evidence found, it all started with a conflict in the bedroom, after which Holly tried to hide from Nicholas in the kitchen, but unfortunately, the girl was attacked there as well. Nicholas took the life of his wife and then, using the skills acquired while working at a meat processing plant, dismembered her body in the bathroom, packed it into bags, and began to ponder his next steps. He attached a note to the front door and locked himself in the apartment. The message stated that the residents of the dwelling had coronavirus, so please do not disturb. On the same day, Nicholas took possession of Holly's phone and began sending messages to her loved ones and friends. Pretending to be the girl, he wrote that she had harmed herself, after which she was taken to a psychiatric clinic, from where she escaped to Manchester. Nicholas also claimed on Holly's behalf that she had treated her husband badly. He transferred money from his wife's bank account to his own and later withdrew it at the nearest ATM. When Holly's relatives became worried a few days later, Nicholas realized that he needed to get rid of the bags and thoroughly clean the dwelling. So he contacted his longtime school friend Joshua Hancock and asked for help. Nicholas promised to pay his buddy £50 sterling, which is approximately $60. 27-year-old Joshua had mental disabilities and, like Nicholas, suffered from Asperger's syndrome. However, unlike his friend, Hancock had a very low level of intelligence. Joshua had a passion for substances and lived with his parents. In January 2023, the young man came to the attention of the police after he began communicating with minors on the internet. He invited them to visit, sending his home address, but instead of young girls, law enforcement officers came to him. Here is the video footage of that moment. Joshua pretended not to understand what was happening. The young man was placed under investigation, and just 3 months after this incident, he helped Nicholas get rid of the bags containing the remains of Holly Mason's body. Nicholas bought a large trolley. In the apartment, he loaded 18 bags into it, took them outside, transferred them to the trunk of his car, then picked up his friend, and the two of them headed to the river. After dumping the bags, the buddies returned to the dwelling, where they started a thorough cleaning. Nicholas paid Joshua the promised £50, after which he went home. Literally a couple of hours later, Hancock sent a message to another acquaintance, boasting that he had received £50 for helping to dispose of a corpse, and he also took a photo with the banknote and posted it online. The caption under the photo read, "Girls, call me, I haven't had intimacy for a long time." A few days later, Joshua deleted this post. Meanwhile, Nicholas continued to stay in the apartment, not opening the door to anyone and using the internet. In the search engine, he entered queries such as, "What assistance can I expect in the event of my wife's death? Can bleach destroy fingerprints? Can a person's ghost haunt me after their death? Does God forgive murders?" In the spring of 2024, Nicholas Mason appeared in court and fully admitted his guilt. On April 5, he was sentenced to life imprisonment with the right to parole after 19 years. Nicholas not only killed his wife but also made every effort to hide her body and make it impossible to find. By this, he demonstrated his immorality and cruelty, and therefore, he deservedly ended up behind bars to realize the gravity of what he had done and atone for his guilt. His accomplice Joshua Hancock also pleaded guilty. According to witnesses, Joshua repented more for what he had done than Nicholas did. Hancock received 3 years in prison and was also entered into the register of persons who committed crimes for a period of 10 years. Holly's grief-stricken parents admitted that their daughter's death had become a real tragedy for the entire family. The mother and father of the deceased hope that Nicholas will remain behind bars for life and never be released again. Thank you for watching this story. Write your thoughts about it in the comments. Don't miss the future videos, subscribe and like the channel. Take care of yourself and people you love.